afternoon all, welcome to the Hunt and Gather Cooking Show. My name is Jennifer Hoyt-Lawley, and recently I have written and self-published a cookbook called Hunt and Gather. Today I'm going to show you a few recipes from this book. So at this time I'd like you to gather your bucks and your does, grab a handful of grains, and let's start the show. So Hunt and Gather, this book, it's a story about a girl who was born a carnivore, who became a hunter and a chemist, evolved into a grainiac, and was born again. So in today's segment, I'm going to show you one of the absolute easiest recipes that I know for preparing wild game. Today we're going to do pan-seared wild venison. And what would you serve with wild venison? Well, I would serve it with wild rice. Since this book has no white flour and no processed foods, everything in the book is based on whole grains. What we'll serve today is a combination of wild rice, which is actually a grass. In the book, you can read all about the different types of gluten-free whole grains, gluten-containing whole grains, and again, today we're going to work with wild rice and brown basmati rice. The nice thing about serving wild rice with this recipe is that we're going to deglaze the pan when we're done pan-searing the venison. We're going to deglaze with any red wine that you like, and all that red wine deglazed sauce will be infused into the wild rice and brown basmati rice. So along with our wild venison and wild rice, we're going to serve citrus-infused or lemon pepper roasted squash medallions. This recipe is so good, it's actually the one that's featured on the cover. So to start, the most important thing in cooking is really timing. And today, since we're making 3 different dishes for one dinner, we're going to start with the dish that takes the longest. To begin, we'll work with our brown basmati rice and our wild rice. If you don't have wild rice alone, you can just work with something like this. It's a country rice blend, and it's got all different types of brown rice in there. But again, the important thing here is to work with things that are whole grains. So instead of just white rice, work with the different types of brown rice. So today we're going to make 2 cups, and we'll use 1/2 cup of the wild rice. We'll also add 1.5 cups of the brown basmati. That. So since we've added 2 cups of rice total to the pot, we're going to add 4 cups of water. Now a lot of people ask if you should add oil or salt or anything extra to the pot of rice, and you really don't need to. But one of the things you might want to add is a sea vegetable. This is one of my favorites. It's called kombu, and this is something that's very big in the macrobiotics diet, but it's really great in terms of the health benefits. So this, it actually smells like the ocean. I just break off a 2-inch section and I add it to the pot. First thing we'll do is we will heat this on high. So something important in cooking besides timing is organization. Since I mentioned that I'm really into grains, that's where the whole term grainiac comes from. I keep all of my grains stored in airtight containers, as shown here. The other thing I do is, along with all my grains, I keep my kombu right at hand so that I don't forget to salt my grains. It's super high in chlorophyll and tons of trace minerals and vitamins. This is the ultimate health food that you can add quickly and easily to any of your grains, again, to salt your dishes. Okay, so once you have your rice started, you bring it to a boil, give it a stir. Don't forget to turn it down to a simmer. Turn it all the way down to low. Simmering just means that you see a few bubbles every few seconds. Add the lid. We're going to cook this for 45 minutes. So do you know what time it is? It's time to get the lead out. In the last segment, we showed some venison that was killed using a bow. Right now, we're in rifle and muzzleloader season, one of my favorites. So in this segment, I'm dedicating this episode to my father, Joseph Hoyt. When we were young, we used to sit and listen to vinyl. We'd listen to things like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and now today I'm trying to give it back to him. We introduced him to hunting just a few years ago, and he's been hooked. He hasn't stopped since. So speaking of hunting, what we're going to cook today is an absolutely beautiful London broil cut from a buck that my husband shot just a few weeks ago in icy cold Saskatchewan. So what we're actually working with is the leg of the venison. This is also known as the top round or the London broil. From the leg, we can get the top round, we can also get the bottom round, or the flank steak, all in this area, which some folks also refer to as the ham. So we're going to start by cooking the wild game, which again is going to be the wild venison. This is the easiest way that I know how to make the dish. It's the pan-seared and oven-roasted version. All we're going to do is put a little bit of a dry rub on it, and then we're going to cook it in the oven. So today we've got one of my colleagues here, one of my best friends, Dr. Maggie Bump.
Hello.
I'm showing Maggie how to cook this dish because she was wondering, again, what is one of the easiest ways to cook venison? Okay, so to start this dish, all that we need is a nice cut of venison and one of your favorite rubs. These are rubs from a company called Victoria Gourmet. They happen to be my favorite. You can choose anything you'd like. Today we're going to work with a honey Aleppo pepper rub. Another one of my favorites is this Moroccan rub, and this is actually in a recipe called Moroccan backstraps with harissa sauce, and that's in the book. All we're going to do is take a little of this rub and just pour it right on the venison, just like that. Once you have a nice coating, just push it around a little bit, make a nice even coat on the top and some of the sides.
So Jim, I'm reading the book about thermal conductivity. What are we going to cook it in?
Well, we're going to choose a pan that has good thermal conductivity. All thermal conductivity is, it's the rate at which a substance transfers heat from one substance to another. We've got 3 different choices here in my kitchen. So if you read in the book, you'll find the diamond actually has the highest thermal conductivity of any material. But if you show me someone who has diamond cookware in their kitchen, I'd like to meet them. One of the other things that you could use, or that they used with royalty, is silver. Silver actually has a higher thermal conductivity than anything we're going to work with today. But since I don't have silver cookware, this is what we're going to use. So our first choice is stainless steel. It has a thermal conductivity of about 18 watts per meter K. Our second choice is enameled cast iron. It has a thermal conductivity of about 55 watts per meter K. And finally, my favorite, which is copper, and you can tell it's my favorite from how worn it is. It's got the highest thermal conductivity of about 400 watts per meter K. So for those of you wondering, what's a watts per meter K? I've got Dr. Bump, who's she's a professor at Virginia Tech. She's going to tell us all about it.
There you go. So if we're talking about heating a pan, you want it to heat evenly and you don't want to have hot spots. So watts per meter, that's your meter, it's your area, your space. And then your K is actually degrees Kelvin. So that's your temperature. So how quickly does it spread across the pan? And make sure that you don't have hot spots. The higher your conductivity, the more even your heating area.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bond.
Oh, you're welcome, Dr. Lolly.
So the other thing to consider when choosing your cookware is the weight of it. Picking up a cast iron pan would be kind of like picking up a big trophy buck. Picking up a copper pan would be sort of like picking up a spike buck. And then if you were to choose stainless steel, that's sort of like dragging in a dough. But again, today we're going to work with copper. And if you want more information on the thermal conductivity, specific heat, the density, and all the details on cookware, you can refer to the book. Okay, so we're going to start with the venison. And the first thing we'll do, get the flame on high heat. The reason I'm using high heat with the copper is, again, because it has really good thermal conductivity, meaning it transfers heat very quickly. If I turn the heat up, pot heats up. If I turn it down, it cools very quickly. If you're working with stainless steel, you might want to start with medium to medium high so that you don't burn your meat. What we'll do now is add about 2 tablespoons. So to start, we're going to heat the oil to the shimmering point, which is just below the smoke point. So something you'll notice in the background is the fan. We've got the fan on because we're essentially blackening the rub on this venison. Okay? So I'm literally just going to dump a little bit more of this rub right on top of the venison. So what we'll do now is just give the pan a quick shake to make sure it releases. Yep, it's ready to turn. So now we'll turn the venison. Okay. You can see how the rub on top of the venison is now slightly blackened. Just brown it on each side for about 2 minutes, and now we're going to put it in the oven. For this recipe, we're not adding wine to the pan, and we're not even using a meat thermometer. We're going to just guess it. We're going to wing it. We're going to look at the thickness of that meat, and it's about 1.5 to 2 inches thick. I'm going to set my timer for about 10 minutes for a medium rare cut of meat. If you want to use the meat thermometer, you're going to cook it to 120 degrees, which is medium rare. So now we're going to make the lemon pepper squash medallions. And for this dish, I have a total of 3 yellow squash, a total of 3 zucchini. I'm going to put the 3rd zucchini in right now, and we're going to use a mandolin to cut these into super thin medallions. The mandolin is this guy. If you don't have a mandolin, you can just use a knife and slice the things very thin. Okay, so we're not even bothering with a cutting board. I'm literally just cutting these and slicing them right into the pan. One thing of importance though, since I'm talking to you and not paying attention, I've got my cut resistant glove on so I don't chop my fingers off. We're going to top the squash medallions off with a lemon pepper herb. Okay, so for the lemon pepper squash medallions, you can use any type of lemon herb and any brand. For today, we're actually going to use a mixture of plain lemon pepper that does have salt, and we're going to add some red pepper flakes for a little heat. We're going to use about 1.5 tablespoons of the lemon pepper seasoning, right on top. We're going to use just a dash of the red pepper. You'll be surprised how hot it is. About 1/2 teaspoon. That's plenty. Once we've added the herbs, then we're going to top this off with a little drizzle of not Cavassier, but olive oil. And now you're going to use your best kitchen tool, your hands, to just mix everything together. Just toss the seasonings and the olive oil. Make a small effort to get each of the medallions coated with a little bit of seasoning and a little bit of oil. And don't worry about how perfect it is. Once you get it in the oven, it'll all melt together. So I promised this would be easy. Our 10 minutes is up. I'm going to shut the timer off. I'm going to take the meat out of the oven. So if you want to make this super simple, you could stop right here and let the meat rest. We've already got a beautiful blackened rub on the top and bottom of the venison. Or if you want to break down the venison and make it a tiny bit more tender and a little bit more flavor infused, what I like to do is we're going to add about 1/2 cup of wine. We'll turn our heat back up to high. You can hear it sizzle. The most important thing at this point is to wear an oven mitt. Do not grab the handle with your hand. And the other thing you'll want to do when deglazing the pan is use either a wooden spoon or a flat-edged spatula to scrape down the bits in the pan and infuse them into the sauce. You'll see that the sauce is now boiling. At this point, just boil the sauce down to the consistency that you want. The longer you boil, the thicker the sauce is. Don't worry about the exact temperature. In this recipe, I do call for 400 degrees, but you could just as easily keep the oven at 380 and throw this in along with the venison. Okay folks, it's the moment of truth. We've got the London broil out of the oven, and we're going to go ahead and carve it up. Now, something I'll mention is that when it comes to meat doneness, a lot of people like their meat to sort of come out mooing. In my case, I like it to come out bleeding. Our centerpiece, and the gorgeous piece right in the front. So we're ready to also plate our rice. And what you can see is our cooked kombu right on the top. You can either leave this in, or if you'd like, you can remove it and reserve it and make a seaweed salad just like you get at the sushi bar. This smells awesome. All right, those are our medallions. And for the final touch, we're gonna drizzle a little bit of this beautiful reduced wine sauce right on top of the venison and a little on top of the wild rice.
Jennifer, I've been over here behind this camera long enough. Is it time for blessing yet?
You betcha, Dixon. Thanks again for being here today, Dixon. And today we're honoring dads and deer. And to do so, here is the hunt and gather prayer. If we are what we eat, then God has bestowed us a noble treat. Venison from the white-tailed deer, so lean, intelligent, strong, and fair. We respect this heavenly herbivore who humbles us earthly carnivores. Because of your power, wit, and stealth, you instill in us patience, hope, and health. With your majestic crown and magnificent meat, we honor you through prayer and plate. Thanks to God's plan and our fate, we break bread now, always, and celebrate. Amen.
Amen.
And that, bucks and does, is how we hunt for joy.
So here's the new daddy, Chris. Saskatchewan and big old bucks.
Amen, Dixon.
Look at him. Nice big heavy 8. Could not be more happy with him. Lots of mass, good length, big body deer.